Right now, at this very moment, one of America's most iconic highways is literally being devoured by the Pacific Ocean. Not tomorrow, not next week, right now. Highway 1, the legendary coastal road that took 18 years and countless lives to build, is disintegrating before our eyes. We're not talking about one collapse, not two, not even five. Over 15 sections spanning 60 miles of California's most stunning coastline are vanishing into the ocean in real time. Big Sur, the jewel of California, the destination that millions dream of visiting, is being buried alive under 40-foot walls of mud moving faster than you can run. Tourists are trapped. Families are screaming for help. Rescue helicopters are being blown sideways by 90 miles per hour winds that make air rescue nearly suicidal. But here's what's keeping geologists awake at night, what's making scientists question everything they thought they knew about our planet. The flooding isn't just destroying the highway. Satellite data is revealing something so terrifying that officials are struggling to find words. The sheer weight of water, trillions of gallons, is triggering total geological collapse across entire mountain ranges. Hillsides that have stood for thousands of years, that survived ice ages, earthquakes, and centuries of storms, are now moving at 305 inches per hour. That's not erosion. That's not landslides. That's the Earth itself giving UP. And scientists are asking one question that nobody wants to answer. Is Big Sur's coastline about to experience permanent, catastrophic, irreversible collapse? Are we witnessing one of America's most breathtaking landscapes literally falling into the ocean forever? This is not clickbait. This is not exaggeration. This is geological apocalypse happening in real time, and what you're about to hear will change how you think about our planet's future forever. Picture this. It's December 23rd, 4:15 a.m. Pacific Time. Still dark. Most of California is asleep. But deep underground, along Highway 1 near Rocky Creek Bridge, Caltrans ground sensors start screaming. Engineers monitoring data from San Luis Obispo are staring at their screens in absolute horror. The numbers they are seeing should not be possible. The highway, built on solid bedrock, reinforced with millions of dollars of engineering, is shifting beneath water-saturated soil at 2 inches per hour. That might not sound like much, but to engineers, it's like watching a building's foundation dissolve before your eyes. Emergency protocols activate across the Central Coast. Alarms blare. Phone calls cascade through emergency management offices. And then, at 5:47 a.m., the first catastrophe strikes. A 200-foot section of Highway 1 near Big Sur, the very stretch that postcards are made from, where tourists stop to take selfies with the ocean behind them, plunges into the Pacific Ocean with a sound residents describe as thunder mixed with an earthquake. Imagine standing on solid ground, and suddenly the earth just stops existing beneath you. The highway that took 18 years to build vanishes in less than 30 seconds. Drivers who are planning early morning trips along the coast arrive at barriers thrown up by frantic highway patrol officers. But several vehicles are already trapped between collapse zones. Families wake up in roadside motels to discover they are now prisoners. No way forward, no way back, surrounded by crumbling earth. 6:30 a.m. The second major collapse hits at Mud Creek, and if that name sounds familiar, it's because this is the exact location of the massive 2017 landslide that took 14 months and $54 million to repair. The 2017 slide was called a once-in-a-century event by engineers. They said it would never happen again in our lifetimes. They were catastrophically wrong. This time, a 150-foot wide section disappears, taking 3 vehicles with it into the churning ocean below. California Highway Patrol receives desperate 911 calls from motorists watching in their rearview mirrors as the road behind them simply ceases to exist. One caller's voice, shaking with terror, says the road is just gone. It's not damaged, it's not cracked, it's gone. There's just ocean where the highway was 30 seconds ago. 7:15 a.m. Third collapse at Ragged Point. Fourth collapse at Plaskett Creek. Fifth collapse near Willow Creek. A terrifying pattern becomes undeniable. This isn't random geological failure. The highway is failing systematically, like dominoes falling in slow motion, along a 60-mile corridor as atmospheric rivers continue hammering the coast with rainfall rates exceeding 6 inches per hour. To put that in perspective, most severe storms drop 2 to 3 inches in 24 hours. This storm is dropping twice that amount every single hour. By 8 a.m., Highway 1 closes completely from Cambria to Carmel. Big Sur, home to thousands, destination for millions, is now entirely isolated from civilization. The numbers are devastating. 47 vehicles trapped between collapse zones. Over 180 tourists and residents stranded with no ground evacuation possible. Zero visibility conditions, making helicopter rescue nearly impossible. 90 miles per hour winds that exceed safety limits for emergency aircraft. Emergency helicopter pilots attempt rescues that are essentially suicide missions. One Coast Guard pilot later describes conditions by saying they were flying blind through winds that could flip them upside down at any second, trying to find landing zones that might not exist by the time they arrived. Weather radar shows something that makes meteorologists go pale. Continuous bands of moisture streaming from the Pacific with no break in sight. These aren't separate storms. This is one continuous atmospheric river that's acting like a fire hose aimed directly at Big Sur's already saturated mountains. Now the real nightmare begins. Multiple massive mudslides trigger simultaneously across the Big Sur region. Near the famous Nepenthe restaurant area, where celebrities dine with ocean views, witnesses report a 40-foot wall of mud and debris crashing down the mountainside. One witness describes it as not looking real, like CGI from a disaster movie. A wall of earth taller than a 4-story building, moving faster than a car, with trees tumbling inside it like toothpicks in a blender. And the sound, like a freight train mixed with thunder that wouldn't stop. The volume? An estimated 500,000 cubic yards of earth in motion. That's enough soil to fill 150 Olympic-sized swimming pools, and it's moving at speeds exceeding 30 miles per hour down steep mountain slopes. The Vent Anna Wilderness experiences mudslides measuring 2 miles long and 300 feet wide, geological events so massive they are visible from space. Satellite imagery later shows entire valleys filled with debris where pristine forests stood just hours before. Pfeiffer Big Sur State Park, one of California's most beloved state parks, completely disappears beneath an estimated 3 million cubic yards of mud. That's 6 times more earth than the once-in-a-century 2017 landslide. Emergency responders arriving by helicopter describe landing in areas they've known for years and finding nothing but vast fields of debris where forests, facilities, and campgrounds once stood. The landscape is transformed so completely that GPS coordinates seem wrong. Surely this can't be the same location. Dejan's Big Sur Inn, a historic property that survived decades of storms, evacuates in minutes before a massive mudslide destroys all access roads. Guests flee with only the clothes on their backs as walls of mud close in from multiple directions. Post Ranch Inn, one of the world's most exclusive luxury resorts where rooms cost $2,000 per night, finds its guests facing emergency Coast Guard airlifts as the property becomes completely inaccessible. Wealthy travelers who came for serenity and ocean views now pray for helicopter rescue through storms that ground most aircraft. Vent Anna Big Sur, another ultra-luxury destination, watches its access roads disappear. Staff and guests, potentially 300-plus people, are completely cut off with no resupply possible. Escalate Institute, the famous retreat center where celebrities and tech billionaires seek enlightenment, finds staff and visitors trapped with no escape routes as slides block Highway 1 in both directions. Julia Pfeiffer Burns State Park experiences catastrophic slope failure near the iconic Muckway Falls, the waterfall that drops directly onto the beach, featured in millions of Instagram posts. The geological formations that created this natural wonder are now collapsing into the ocean. USGS geological surveys reveal data that makes scientists question their instruments. Entire mountainsides destabilized by water saturation levels reaching 400% above normal capacity. 15 major mudslide events in just 4 hours. Communications infrastructure failing as cell towers topple in the slides. Communities completely isolated with no phone, internet, or emergency communication. The Big Sur Fire Brigade, just 8 volunteer personnel, attempts to coordinate rescues across this apocalyptic landscape. Their equipment sits trapped behind Highway 1 collapse zones, unreachable. By noon, the scope becomes undeniable. Big Sur is not experiencing mudslides. The entire region is being systematically buried under millions of tons of earth. At USGS headquarters in Menlo Park, geologists are analyzing data from Big Sur that defies everything they understand about slope stability. Dr. Sarah Chen, lead geologist, reviews soil saturation measurements that exceed anything in the geological record. Hillsides across the Santa Lucia Mountains are holding 400% more water than their maximum stability threshold. Let me explain what that means in terrifying terms. Imagine a sponge. Now imagine pouring water onto that sponge until it's fully saturated and starts dripping. That's 100% saturation, the maximum water it can hold. Now imagine continuing to pour water until that sponge is holding 4 times more water than it's physically designed to contain. That's what's happening to entire mountains right now. The weight calculation is staggering. Each cubic meter of saturated soil weighs over 2 tons. Across Big Sur's mountainous terrain, we're talking about billions of tons of waterlogged earth pressing against slopes that were never designed to bear this load. To put this in perspective, the weight of water-saturated soil currently pressing on Big Sur's hillsides is equivalent to millions of full-loaded semi-trucks parked on slopes that are already near vertical. University of California Berkeley seismologists detect unusual ground vibration patterns beneath Big Sur. The data suggests the immense water weight may be triggering microseismic events in the underlying geology. Think about that. The weight of water is literally causing earthquakes. Satellite measurements show hillsides moving at rates never previously recorded. 3 to 5 inches per hour across multiple square miles. That's not erosion. That's not weather damage. That's geological surrender. The earth itself saying I can't hold this anymore. Dr. Michael Torres at UC San Diego's Scripps Institution makes a comparison that should terrify everyone. The 2017 Mud Creek landslide moved 6 million cubic yards of earth and was considered unprecedented, a once-in-a-century occurrence that engineers said would never happen again in our lifetimes. Current mudslides have already exceeded that volume, and the atmospheric rivers show no signs of weakening. 3 atmospheric river systems are converging over California, carrying water vapor equivalent to 15 Mississippi rivers flowing through the SKY. Read that again. 15 Mississippi rivers. In the sky, above California, integrated water vapor transport readings measure 1,600 kilograms per meter per second. Normal winter storms rarely exceed 500. This is triple the intensity of what California's infrastructure was designed to handle. Here's where things get truly terrifying. Climate models never predicted atmospheric rivers of this intensity until 2040 or later. These conditions were supposed to be a distant future scenario, something our grandchildren might face. These conditions are occurring in 2024, 16 years ahead of projections. The climate system is reorganizing itself faster than science predicted, forcing scientists to reconsider fundamental assumptions about climate change timelines and impacts. If atmospheric rivers are intensifying this rapidly, coastal communities from Washington to Mexico face similar threats. The entire Pacific Coast infrastructure may be completely inadequate for the new climate reality. Highways, bridges, buildings, power systems, all designed for historical weather patterns, cannot withstand these new extremes. Emergency planners realize they are fighting the last war, preparing for disasters that pale in comparison to what's actually occurring. The Martinez family from San Diego wakes to the sound of the ground shaking in their Big Sur rental cabin. They came for a dream Christmas vacation. Now they are living a nightmare. A 40-foot mudslide stops just 50 feet from their door. 3 children under 10 years old are inside. An elderly grandmother requires daily medications they are running out of. No escape routes available. They wait for helicopter rescue through weather conditions that make air operations nearly impossible, watching the storm intensify around them, watching mudslides creep closer, wondering if the next one will reach their cabin. The father later describes it by saying they told the kids they were playing a game, who could stay quietest so the rescue helicopter could hear them. But every time the ground shook, he saw his wife's face go white. They both knew what was happening. The mountain was collapsing around them. Sarah Thompson, 68 years old, has lived in Big Sur for 4 decades. Her home, built with her late husband, filled with 40 years of memories, photos, family heirlooms, disappears under 20 feet of mud in less than 3 minutes. She escapes with her 2 dogs and nothing else. Everything she built over 40 years vanishes beneath the debris flow. When emergency responders find her, she's in shock, clutching her dogs, repeating, "This was all I had in the world. Everything. 40 years. Gone." No insurance will cover this. No government assistance will replace what she lost. Her entire life erased by a wall of mud moving faster than she could run. Big Sur Volunteer Fire Department Captain Mike Rodriguez coordinates rescues with only 8 personnel. 8 people trying to save hundreds across 60 miles of catastrophic collapse. Their equipment sits trapped behind Highway 1 collapse zones, unreachable. They are fighting an apocalypse with pickup trucks and handheld radios. Coast Guard helicopters attempt rescues in 90 miles per hour winds that exceed safety operation limits. Pilots fly entirely on instruments with zero visibility, landing in areas where the ground itself might be moving, where the landing zone might disappear beneath a mudslide mid-rescue. In the first 12 hours, 47 people are successfully evacuated by air. 4 to 7 people saved by pilots risking their lives on missions that should be impossible, coordinated by 8 volunteers who refuse to give up even as their own homes face destruction. Staff and guests at Post Ranch INN, Ventana Big Sur, and Escalate Institute, combined over 300 employees and guests, find themselves completely cut off with no resupply possible. People who paid thousands of dollars for luxury retreats now ration food and water, sleep in hallways away from windows, pray that buildings engineered for earthquakes can also withstand the earth literally moving beneath them. Emergency shelters in Monterey and Carmel receive Big Sur evacuees arriving in profound shock. Children cry for toys buried under mud. Elderly residents require immediate medical care. Families arrive with nothing but the clothes on their backs, many barefoot, some injured, all traumatized. Shelter volunteers describe scenes that haunt them. People would just sit in silence, staring at nothing, for hours. Not crying, not talking, just processing. Everything they owned wasn't burned or stolen. It was buried under so much mud that nothing can ever be recovered. There's no closure. Their possessions are just gone, somewhere under 40 feet of earth. Local business owners face total ruin. Restaurants that served Big Sur for decades sit empty, supplies rotting, staff unable to reach work. Art galleries holding irreplaceable collections are inaccessible, content potentially buried forever. Small hotels representing generational investments face bankruptcy even if structures survive. Without Highway 1, there's no tourism. Without tourism, there's no economy. Without an economy, there's no Big Sur. Highway 1's complete closure severs California's coastal economic lifeline. Remember the 2017 Mud Creek landslide? It took 14 months and $54 million to repair. Engineers called it the most expensive highway repair in California history. Current damage extends across 60 miles with over a dozen major collapse sites. Caltrans engineers estimate initial repairs will exceed $500 million, but industry insiders believe the true cost may reach multiple billions. Big Sur's tourism industry generates $1.2 billion annually. That revenue drops to absolute zero the moment Highway 1 closes. Christmas week alone typically brings $80 million in tourism spending. This year, nothing. Hotels, restaurants, gas stations, art galleries, adventure tour companies, an entire ecosystem of businesses lose all income overnight while fixed costs continue mounting. Central Coast communities depend on Highway 1 for essential supplies. With the highway severed, emergency provisions arrive only by helicopter at 10 times normal transportation costs. A gallon of milk that normally costs $4 now costs $40 to transport. Gasoline, if available at all, reaches $20+ per gallon in isolated communities. Luxury properties across Big Sur face total destruction under mudslides, complete inaccessibility with no roads, structural undermining as foundations lose support, zero resale value even if buildings survive. Insurance claims exceed $3 billion in the Big Sur region alone, but insurance companies are denying claims, arguing that earth movement isn't covered under standard policies. Property owners who invested millions discover their insurance is worthless. Their properties are either destroyed or worthless, their life savings vaporized. Massive sediment flows pour into the Pacific Ocean, affecting marine sanctuaries along the Central Coast. Millions of tons of mud entering the ocean in concentrated areas creates kelp forests suffocating under debris layers, fish populations fleeing turbid waters with zero visibility, endangered species losing critical habitat, marine ecosystems facing disruption lasting decades. Central Coast farms that depend on Highway 1 for market access find themselves isolated. Organic produce rots in fields, no way to transport to markets. Dairy operations struggle to ship milk, millions in losses. Crops that took months to grow decompose unharvested. The regional food supply chain collapses, not because farms are destroyed, but because the transportation network has failed. President Biden approves a federal disaster declaration within 24 hours. FEMA deploys to the California coast in what becomes the largest disaster response in the region's history. The scope of federal assistance will run into billions of dollars, but money alone cannot restore what's been lost. The ecological damage will persist for decades. The psychological trauma is permanent. The communities may never fully recover. The National Weather Service issues forecasts that send emergency planners into absolute crisis mode. Additional atmospheric rivers approach the California coast with more moisture content than the system's currently devastating Big Sur. The forecast calls for 10 to 20 inches of additional rainfall across the already saturated region. Hillsides that cannot absorb another drop face guaranteed additional collapse. USGS issues a rare extreme landslide danger warning for the entire Santa Lucia mountain range. This is the highest threat level they can issue, essentially declaring that catastrophic failure is imminent across hundreds of square miles. Satellite imagery reveals dozens of hillsides showing critical failure indicators, the geological equivalent of cracks appearing in a dam just before it bursts. Caltrans engineers identify 15 additional high-risk sections of Highway 1 showing imminent collapse indicators. Some sections may become permanently unsafe for reconstruction. Think about that. Parts of Highway the 1st of May never be rebuilt. The iconic coastal drive that took 18 years to construct might be permanently severed. Monterey County expands mandatory evacuation orders to include an additional 5,000 residents. But here's the nightmare question. How do you evacuate areas that are already cut off? Pacific Gas and Electric reports 85,000 customers without power as transmission lines fail under mudslide damage. But the infrastructure failures are cascading. Water treatment facilities operating on backup power that will fail within days. Sewage systems facing potential catastrophic failure. Natural gas lines requiring inspection across hundreds of miles. Cell towers down, no emergency communications. Internet infrastructure destroyed, communities digitally isolated. The basic infrastructure that supports modern life is disintegrating under nature's relentless assault, creating new emergencies even as responders struggle with the original catastrophe. Weather forecasters track the next atmospheric river system approaching from the Pacific. This one carries even more moisture than the current system. Computer models show it making landfall in 48 hours. Already saturated hillsides cannot absorb any additional water. The forecast creates panic among emergency managers who realize they are facing a question with no good answer. How do you protect communities when the roads no longer exist? Big Sur has collapsed before, but never like this. 1983 storms brought major landslides, months of closure, $50 million damage. 1998 El Nino brought catastrophic failures, $100 million in repairs. 2017 Mud Creek slide moved 6 million cubic yards of earth, once in a century event. The 2024 Christmas floods exceed all these historical precedents combined. And they are arriving decades ahead of when scientists predicted such events would occur. Highway 1 construction began in 1919 and took 18 years to complete through terrain engineers described as impossible to stabilize permanently. Multiple sections have collapsed and been rebuilt over the decades. But now, the fundamental question facing California is, can Highway 1 be rebuilt permanently? Or is the road geologically doomed, a temporary human achievement that nature is now reclaiming? Some engineers argue the entire Big Sur corridor should be abandoned. The cost to maintain a highway through geologically active terrain becomes unsustainable when atmospheric rivers of unprecedented intensity strike every few years. Alternative proposals include a tunnel system through the mountains with estimated costs exceeding $10 billion. Others suggest accepting that Big Sur will be accessible only by limited routes during certain seasons. The road that connected California's coast might become a seasonal attraction, closed for months each winter. This radical reimagining of iconic infrastructure reflects a broader reckoning with climate reality. Perhaps some places cannot sustain permanent modern access. Perhaps nature will reclaim what humans temporarily controlled. The debate extends to building codes and development restrictions. Should reconstruction even be allowed in areas demonstrating such catastrophic instability? Some argue that taxpayers should not fund repeated rebuilding in known hazard zones. Others counter that abandoning Big Sur means surrendering an iconic American landscape to climate change. The philosophical questions are profound. What do we owe to communities built in dangerous places? What responsibility do we bear for helping people whose choices to live in beautiful but vulnerable locations now seem tragically unwise? Do we rebuild and face the same disaster in 5 years, 10 years, or do we abandon irreplaceable landscapes to nature's wrath? International climate research institutions share similar findings. The jet stream disruption affecting California's coast is part of a hemisphere-wide reorganization of weather patterns. Europe faces unprecedented flooding. The Arctic experiences temperatures 20 degrees Fahrenheit above normal. Global climate is accelerating faster than any model predicted. The climate crisis is no longer isolated to specific regions. It's global, accelerating, and overwhelming the infrastructure humans built to withstand it. The brutal truth? Invest billions in prevention infrastructure or spend trillions on repeated disaster response. Every major storm brings the same debate. Every disaster triggers calls for better preparation that fade as memories dim and budgets tighten. But Big Sur's collapse may finally force the conversation politicians have avoided for decades. This is not an abstract climate projection. This is not a computer model. This is not a distant future threat. This is American landscape vanishing into the ocean in real time. This is families losing everything. This is infrastructure costing billions to repair only to fail again. This is the future arriving decades early. Images of Highway 1 sections suspended in midair before plunging into the Pacific become impossible to ignore. Videos of mudslides burying homes circulate globally. The world watches California confront a future that seems increasingly inevitable for coastal regions everywhere. California, and through it America, stands at a crossroads. Do communities rebuild in vulnerable locations, or does society accept that some areas are no longer safe for human habitation? Highway 1's collapse forces fundamental decisions about coastal development in an era of accelerating climate change. 1 week after the initial collapse, Highway 1 remains severed in over a dozen locations. Big Sur sits isolated from the outside world. Emergency operations continue at crisis level. Recovery timeline? Months to assess, years to rebuild. Some sections may never be rebuilt safely. Is this California's future? Increasingly violent atmospheric rivers battering unstable coastlines? Communities repeatedly destroyed and rebuilt only to face the same fate again? The financial cost becomes unsustainable. The human cost becomes unbearable. Scientists convene emergency sessions to analyze what Big Sur's collapse reveals about climate change acceleration. The atmospheric conditions that triggered the catastrophe continue to challenge fundamental understanding of how quickly the climate system can reorganize itself. Models projected these storm intensities for 2040 or later. They arrived in 2024, catching emergency planners completely unprepared. Highway 1's collapse is not just infrastructure failure. It is a warning. Nature is reclaiming terrain that humans assumed they could control permanently. The California coast that existed throughout the 20th century may not survive the 21st century. Communities built in geological hazard zones face impossible choices about their future. As Big Sur residents begin the long process of recovery, as scientists analyze data that challenges every projection, as emergency managers prepare for the next atmospheric river, one conclusion becomes undeniable. The climate crisis is not a future threat approaching on the horizon. It is a present reality demanding immediate and sustained response. The road has collapsed into the Pacific Ocean. But the questions it raises about our changing climate and our ability to adapt will echo for generations. Big Sur may rebuild. Highway the 1st of May reopen. Communities may recover. But the illusion that we can control nature through engineering alone has been shattered like the pavement of Highway 1 tumbling into the Pacific. And somewhere, right now, another atmospheric river is forming in the Pacific Ocean, carrying more moisture than nature ever intended, aimed at a coastline that cannot bear any more weight, heading toward communities that still believe they are safe. The question isn't whether this will happen again. The question is where, and when, And how much was